mothers of the two young ladies to the court. They asked the court to look at additional information, which the 911, the recordings of the 911 were sent to the court. The court had reviewed them. Was there anything else from either side before the court goes into its decision? Anything from the people?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Anything from the defense?
No, Judge, you've given us ample time. Thank you.
Let me just say that, and I guess there isn't an easy way for me to say this. And I guess, I don't know. I know the mothers gave their statements at the last hearing. I don't know. Was there anything additional you wanted to tell the court? No, from neither. Okay. There isn't an easy way for the court to say this, except for to say that, well, first of all, and I'll give everyone another opportunity to speak after I say what I'm going to say and what the court looks at, what the court has at least surmised. The defense's position is that certainly the defendant ought to be sentenced on the charge that he pled to. Much of that, frankly, I guess bears on the concept, or at least what has been said, that the defendant, Mr. Torres, was not in a position to see the accident, and that he was someplace else, which led to the plea. And again, it's not the court's province to get involved in what the particulars of the charge are, but to try to do its best to mete out a just sentence. Part of the reason also that the court had made a determination to at least hear the 911 tapes. I have a copy of the police report as well as Mr. Torres' statements. Was because I was going, and I said to the parents that there may not be anything that the court could do, but you were going to be heard by this court. And in doing that, some things, as I saw them, were a bit disturbing to me. And, you know, I'm not in, nor should I be, in a position necessarily to do some investigation to try to figure out what transpired entirely. But ultimately, the issue became, and I will make no bones about it, that if this court believed, despite the charges, that the defendant was indeed basically present when the vehicle went off the road and the accident occurred, that changes the court's perspective on what would be a proper sentence in this case. So initially, in listening to the 911 calls, particularly, there were a few other calls, but I listened to Mr. Torres' call to 911. And that initially caused me some concern about whether or not the defendant saw this accident. And
This is where things start getting serious. The judge isn't just passively listening anymore. He's actively questioning the credibility of the defendant's entire story. And in court, credibility is everything. Notice how the judge is carefully laying out inconsistencies, especially around the 911 call and location data. That put a pin in that moment? That's not casual, it's strategic. He's building a logical chain that suggests Torres may have been closer to the crash than he admits. Now here's the key legal angle. Even though the charge is technically about failure to stop, the judge can consider surrounding circumstances, like honesty and behavior, when deciding sentencing. So if he believes Torres is lying, that could mean a harsher outcome. Let me ask you this: if someone was closer to the scene than they claim,
Why? And again, I will give an opportunity to respond, but Mr. Torres initially contacts 911, and what was said to the court by Mr. Torres and what he had maintained to probation is that he didn't see this accident. I'm having a very difficult time believing that. And let me explain my reasons why. Defense counsel, I think, properly stated before that that Mr. Torres had called from someplace else. Mr. Torres contacts 911, and it's an odd call because of the way that I think the dispatcher was responding to Mr. Torres. But one of the things that was said is Mr. Torres put himself at First Street off of Superior. The dispatcher says that's not where we have you. Put a pin in that, because that becomes important in the court's mind. At some point, Mr. Torres then says, I'm at First Street. He is then headed back to the location of the initial contact between the vehicles. Okay. All of that being said, I then review the police report and Mr. Torres' statements. And if everyone can recall, one of the things that the court was looking at was, did Mr. Torres chase these individuals and cause this accident? One of the things that was said in counter to that is that he's not near the accident, doesn't see the accident. Again, I'm having a difficult time believing that. And part of the reason I'm having a difficult time believing that is because there is an EMU security camera that's referred to in the police report that has these vehicles traveling down Huron River Drive, both at a high rate of speed, because Mr. Torres is in an Equinox, I do believe, and there's a truck. At some point, they get to the corner of Huron River Drive and Superior. According to Mr. Torres, it is a red light. The truck stops. He stops at some point. The truck continues through the red light. Mr. Torres indicates from the report, at least as I read it, that he then turns on a green light. Now, how that certainly all could happen. Bottom line is that they're then, Mr. Torres indicates in the police report that at some point on Superior, he disengages from, as he puts, following the vehicle. It's best the court's able to determine the distance from that corner of Superior where the turn is made to the railroad tracks. It's approximately 1,000 feet. Mr. Torres is then if he is correct and he is saying where he is to the dispatcher, this is where we take the pen out of that he's at first, but the dispatcher is saying that's not where we have you. Mr. Torres is further up that road. But even if I give the defendant the benefit of the doubt that as far as he went was first, the railroad tracks are approximately 100 feet from that location. It is a clear shot from that location to see those railroad tracks and that intersection. It is not as though there is a crest. It is as though there is something that from first would obstruct one's view. The other thing that was specifically asked of Mr. Torres is he made it very clear that he did not go over the railroad tracks, but the additional thing that was asked is whether or not he crossed a bridge. Mr. Torres says he did not cross a bridge. That can't be true. Because as you're going up Superior, to get to First, you have to cross the bridge. Moreover, when Mr. Torres is later questioned and talking to the dispatcher, he had to not only cross that bridge once, he had to cross it twice because he had to go over the bridge and he had to come back to get to the location where it occurred.
Can I say something, Your Honor?
In a moment.
No,
No?
Moreover, when you listen to the other 911 calls that are called in, two vehicles that are traveling to the south, so they're traveling the opposite direction from the Getty's roundabout. They see the vehicle go in off, well, basically off the railroad tracks and have the accident. From really, and honestly, I mean, I don't know exactly where they are, but from putting again the defendant where he says he is, they are at a much further distance from those tracks than would be Mr. Torres. He's much further, let me preface this by saying, through the other hearings, it was stated to the court that he is nowhere near the tracks and that he is further from the tracks where this occurred. That can't be true and everything else be true. It just can't be. He is within 100 feet, really between 80 to 100 feet of that intersection when that vehicle goes off the road. Certainly, and it also is perplexing from the court standpoint. I thought I understood it initially. When Mr. Torres is telling the dispatcher that he has the license plate of the other vehicle, one is thinking, or at least I was thinking, that he is getting that license plate by following the vehicle. That's not the case. He actually had the license plate of the vehicle prior to it turning onto Superior. Hence, realistically, there is no reason whatsoever for him to have continued. there is no reason whatsoever for him to have continued up Superior behind that truck. Now, if somebody, and counsel, I will give you an opportunity to address the court on that. And like I said, I'm not here, and I explained to Mom, it's not my province regarding the charge. My province is to mete out the sentence with what's in front of me. And again, I will give an opportunity for a response, but I can tell you where the court is at this point. The court at
This hearing didn't end with a final sentence, but it revealed something just as critical. The court's confidence in the defendant's story has been seriously shaken. The judge made it clear that if Torres was indeed present and witnessed the crash, it fundamentally changes how this case should be judged. That's why we now see a potential motion to withdraw the plea, because the defense understands the risk of moving forward under these circumstances. Legally, this case highlights how facts beyond the charge itself, like credibility, consistency, and behavior, can influence judicial decisions. And strategically, both sides now have to rethink their next move before the next hearing date. This isn't over, it's just getting started. Backhand index pointing right. If you found this case as shocking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns.